Welcome to another episode of Efani Features. And today I have Waleed from Marretta Pay. And Waleed, this is very simple. The first question is really just about you. Just do a basic introduction of yourself and a little bit about your background.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Hi, everyone. So just a little bit about myself. I was born and raised actually in Toronto. So myself and Sam, who's my co-founder from Moreta Pay, we actually went to the same high school. After high school, I went to university in just outside of Toronto. Sam went to a separate university. What's really cool is we kind of stayed in touch the entire time, and definitely knew we were going to work together to build a startup. Just didn't know what. After university, spent some time working in payments, found the industry and space really interesting, and kind of found this really unique opportunity in Southeast and Eastern Asia to kind of enable international travelers and foreigners to pay with QR codes. And that's kind of exactly what we're doing with Marretta Pay now.
All right, awesome. And so to everyone that watches this, I'm a Marretta Pay user, and I didn't know Waleed before that. I saw a need when I was in Southeast Asia. I downloaded the Marretta Pay app because I wanted to pay via QR codes and sort of avoid banks at all possible. And that's why I wanted an interview, because I'm an enthusiastic user, very happy user of the Marretta Pay app. So thanks for existing. Now, in terms
Of
of you
course.
creating the idea, you and Sam coming up
Hmm.
with this particular niche to go after, was it because you were traveling in Southeast Asia and you
Yeah.
saw this gap yourself?
Yeah, so I think it all kind of started, when I was kind of working in the payment space, previously worked at MasterCard. What was really interesting was that, in emerging markets, you see cash usage declining. And intuitively, you'd think, as someone from the West and from North America, you'd think that cash usage is actually being, captured by card usage. But that actually wasn't the case in Southeast and Eastern Asia. It was being consumed by digital wallets and QR codes. And that was kind of being driven by the players such as Alipay and WeChat. So that was kind of the spark that ignited everything. And once we kind of identified that, I actually packed up all my stuff and traveled to Southeast and Eastern Asia for about 6 to 8 months, and went to each of these countries and experienced what was being done in terms of localized payments, and found that difficulty as a foreigner. Like, it is next to impossible, or it's very difficult to get a local account and access these local networks. So I wanted to kind of make that easier for anyone really traveling cross border.
Yeah. Well, so from my experience, because I've been going to Southeast Asia really since
Hmm.
2022 and invest in property there. So try and spend as much time of my life in Southeast Asia. And
Yeah.
there's a couple difficulties. One is it's very difficult to get a bank account. So you have to have a
Right.
certain visa, and in fact, the Southeast Asian governments are all shutting down the visas that are allowing. So, like Thailand, for example, is much tighter on visas, and
Hmm.
therefore it's much harder to get a Thai bank. And so you have to deal with cash or credit cards, and credit cards can be expensive. And so that's the reason why one day when I happened to be in Southeast Asia, I saw your app and downloaded it, and in like 10 minutes I was ready to use it. And I think an hour later I did my first scan and paid
Yeah.
at Seek Square Mall in Bangkok for some coffee and donuts. And so it was easy,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. The other trends I see in happening in Southeast Asia is super restrictive on the banking accounts. In fact, Vietnam just announced like shutting down, I think it was hundreds of thousands, if not a couple million bank accounts, and Thailand's been
Hmm.
shutting down bank accounts. And so the ability to visit and just have vacations in Thailand, business trips, or for the retiree, it's a wonderful thing. Well, that's enough about my enthusiasm on Moreta Pay. So let's get into the Moreta Pay app. And why don't you describe what is the profile of the person that should be watching this video, the person that's going to
Yeah.
be the best user of the Moreta Pay app?
Yeah, I think, really, we kind of bucket it into two different profiles. First, you've got those digital nomads or expats, that are spending, a large majority of the year in Southeast Asia. So, someone that's on the DTV visa in Thailand, or
Yeah.
someone that's visiting Vietnam for, 3 months at a time. This is kind of the perfect product you want. The reason is right now your options are either you pay with card or you go to the ATM and you withdraw cash. You know, everyone is moving away from, a cash focused, payment scheme.
Yeah,
Everything is becoming digital. And the issue with card payments today is that half the merchants, if not more, won't accept card. And those that, often do accept card will offer you a 3% surcharge to cover the interchange. So as a nomad or as an expat, once you have all that convenience where you essentially never have to carry cash with you again, and then you're also saving on the fees, whether it's the ATM fees or whether it's the card
yeah.
fees. So this is kind of a long-term solution that we're building for these users. Right now it's payments, but we want to build a product that, encompasses everything for them. And then the second piece are, short-term travelers or vacationers. Just makes life easier, right? So, you're going to the market, you want to purchase, your dinner instead of carrying cash, instead of having to worry about what the exchange rate is. Everything's kind of there organized for you, and you can easily make that transaction. And it's not difficult to set up. If your experience was 10 minutes, it can be shorter, it might be a little longer, but it's quick and easy to set up. And all you do is you connect your local account and you're essentially transacting like a local.
Yeah, absolutely. For people that are just even coming on vacation, and I don't think a lot of people realize, but you come from the
Yeah.
US and you go to Southeast Asia, you need to pull money out of an ATM and they're charging you
Right.
$6 to $9 just to pull out. So,
Right.
so when you pull out money, you have to pull out, $900 in order to make it worthwhile, or you're paying, if you're paying $7.50 just to use an ATM in Southeast Asia, and you only pull out $100, well, 7.5% of your money is gone right there, plus the currency exchange. Yeah, and so it
Right.
solves that problem. And so when people ask me, like, okay, well, if I'm going to go visit vacation in like Malaysia or Vietnam or Thailand, I always tell them, like, just bring like 500 US dollars, and now I would tell them, load up a couple $100 on Moreta Pay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then if you need to top up, use Marretta Pay wherever you can. And then if you need to top up, you can top up using Apple Pay, a credit card, bank account. Now, in terms of the Marretta Pay app, today you can do the business QR code payments. Now, is there a limit on the person? Excuse me, you can do business QR code payments, but for the personal QR codes, that's a feature that's coming out in a couple weeks. And is that limited only to like Thailand, or is that a limit across the 6 different Southeast Asian countries?
Yeah, so that's currently just a limit in Thailand that we're kind of working to solve. It's something that, we're pushing to enable, that we're working internally on. We're working with, local partners here in Thailand to make sure everything is compliant, everything is done correctly. Um, in other markets, not the same kind of restriction that we're facing. So
Okay.
in Vietnam, we enable, all Viet QR codes, whether it's business, it's been registered as a business or it's a personal, via QR, QRPH, and InstaPay. You can send money to, a personal account. And then, it's the same as for most markets that we operate in. In every market, there are some nuances. For example, in Laos, we can only transact with one pay QR codes. In Vietnam, we don't enable VN Pay, so you'll encounter that about 5% of the time. But what we're planning to do is, we're trying to get 80-90% of the use case, and then as we kind of continue to grow and scale, we'll kind of capture that remaining 5 to 10%. So in Thailand, enabling personal Thai QR is very important, and our users have always been asking for it. So that's definitely become a big priority for us.
Yeah, I would say when I was in Bangkok for about 8 or 9 days, that Moreta Pay covered about 80% of my use cases,
Mhm.
and so to me that was tremendous, and that was with just the business QR code,
Yeah,
and so I look forward to when you roll out these additional features, especially for Thailand. And is
yeah,
there
yeah, it'll
anything
be
that maybe
exciting.
I've missed? Anything you want the people viewing this to know? One thing I did want to highlight is the fact that
Yeah,
Moretta Pay is part of the Y Combinator.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
so could
Yeah.
you just do a quick highlight on that program? And because to me, that's just makes it so legitimate.
Yeah.
Because to get qualified, to get approved, it's like they're not, they don't accept everybody. And so if you could just highlight
Yeah.
that quickly.
Yeah, so we did Y Combinator in summer 2024. So it's been about a year and a half now. It was an incredible experience. They were the same kind of accelerator that invested in Airbnb, in Twitch, in DoorDash. A lot of big players kind of coming out of Silicon Valley, and there's just so much knowledge there. I think what was really interesting for us is we were kind of one of the very few consumer fintech facing apps that were going through the batch in summer 2024 because this was kind of at the height or just approaching the height of the big AI boom happening in Silicon Valley. But the advisors and the mentors we worked with, had so much knowledge and really helped kind of shift our mentality to, you know, working really hard and kind of proving things out and just best practices for building a business. Was so valuable. And like you said, Mark, like it's a reputable brand, and it shows that we're serious, and it shows that we essentially want to build something people want. So if you plan to use Marretta Pay, now or in the future, and you message customer support or you message our WhatsApp group, we read that stuff. So your feedback is super valuable. Mark knows this, and some of our other users know this. I'm the person that's typically responding to customer support emails and messages. So, you're coming right to the source. Your feedback and your suggestions are being read and they're being noted down. And, we're prioritizing things kind of in the future. So you guys are essentially enabling the development and the creation of the app as just as much as we are.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that was a great highlight,
Yeah.
and like I said, I downloaded your app and then found out that you guys were Y Combinator afterwards, and then that gave me just so much confidence in handing over my information and to be able to use it as a payment system. Is there any questions
Yeah.
maybe that I haven't asked that you just want to highlight, or anything that I've missed?
I think the next really exciting stuff that is also coming are some other markets. So we're working to bring out Indonesia, we're working to bring out Malaysia, Japan as well. So we're kind of always working to expand the different countries that we can make payouts to, but also enabling pay-ins. So our Canadians and Australians out there that may not have a U.S. bank account or may not want to load with card, we're working to kind of enable those different bank transfers so that you have a more convenient, cheaper way to load money in. But overall, I think we have a really cool community, and we're planning to hopefully do a meetup sometime in early of 2026, and within the next few months. It would be great to kind of meet yourself, Mark, and some of our
Yeah,
other
absolutely.
users there as well.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, wherever you have it, hopefully I'll be in that area, and I'd love to
Yeah,
attend. So, oh, I really appreciate you being a guest on Efani Features,
of course.
so uh, I'm very optimistic about your future and real excited about what you guys are doing. So appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.